Yeah, I walked in and I can feel the love today. Good morning, everybody.
Good
There
morning,
he is.
Chirag. All right. I'll be
We'll give
quiet now.
everyone the no. Look, I always joke around. It's nice when when you get to meet your Zoom friends in real life. So it was nice to have met some of you guys recently, and we give everyone the real estate the 3 minutes to get in. But I could not be more excited to have Matt on here. Rachel, are you here? Rachel is not here. Okay. So let's get started. So good morning, everyone. I see some new faces here. My name is Chirag Shah. I'm the founder of Chirag Shah Coaching. I'm an external coaching company exclusively for Compass agents. So Agent Talk is a segment we have once a week where we bring somebody that's a great agent at Compass or someone in Compass leadership to share really what they do and ultimately how you could do it too. I love to get an idea of where everyone is. So in the chat box, write what region you're located in. It's fun to see how many different states we get on here. Boston, New Jersey, we have the Hamptons, Miami, Florida, Greenwich, Westchester, Orlando. Thank you for whoever told me my camera's off. New York City, Brooklyn, Chicago. Nobody is exempt from technical difficulties. So look, we have people in probably 15, 16 different states, and I would say 17 because Long Island's its own place. LA, Jan, waking up early for us. So thank you guys all for investing the time out of your day to be here. I could not share a greater person than Matt, because the thing that makes Matt special is he's so down to earth, he's humble. He's had an amazing journey where he's had to work through a lot of different things. And, Matt was recently, congratulations, ranked the #8 medium team in all of New York State. And, his fun fact that I'll share is what he's done in an entire year of production, he crushed in the first quarter. But if you met Matt at a Compass retreat, you reach out to him, you find a very humble person that's an ultimate student, has ultimate energy, wants to lift everybody up around him. And I remember the first time Matt and I met, his sales manager, Joe Fear, connected us. And him and I sat in his office in the Hamptons, like two little schoolgirls geeked out on a whiteboard for 2 hours, like sad to say goodbye to each other. And, obviously our worlds have circled full circle. So Matt, welcome here. Just introduce yourself and tell them kind of where you are and a little bit about your team.
Yeah, well, thanks, Chirag. I'm going to bring you on listing pitches from now on. You just lead with that, and I'll get every listing, I think, from now on. Man. So it's all good. Yeah, I remember that when you came out there, and that's where my lead admin, she started calling me the Rain Man, because me and Chirag, we filled up this whole white dry erase board with all sorts of arrows, and there was boxes, and we filled the whole thing up. I think I left it up there for 2 weeks. So anyway, my name's Matt Breitenbach. Nice to meet all you guys virtually, or I know I've probably talked to a few of you, but I've been doing real estate since I was 22 years old. I'm 38 now, almost 15 years. I grew up in and around the business. My dad's a builder, mom's an agent. They both developed and flipped properties my whole life. So I just kind of grew up immersed in it. I worked with my mom for about 6-7 years. She was my first mentor. Still talk to her almost every day about real estate. She's amazing. She's still a broker, still does her thing. I went out on my own probably around 2014. After 7 years with her, just wanted to grow. I always had an entrepreneurial spirit, so I think I fit in with Chirag and Compass. Always wanted to create something. Always was very creative, and wanted to elevate what I was doing and what I was trying to create. And that was like the main thing, like just being around my mom and the business and some of the old way of doing things. I always thought there was to grow a team. I always had this like vision for what I wanted to do. And since 2016, I officially started my team. Compass is my third brokerage, and I know it's going to be my last. I love it here, but it's just been quite the journey, as Chirag said. And as I was telling Susie before Chirag jumped on, I usually like being on the other side of these things. I love to learn. I love to feed off things. I love picking people's brains. But hopefully I can add some value to your guys' day for sure.
See you guys humble. So let's jump into this, right? Because where you started is not easy, because in the sense is your mom is correct? It's just simple yes or no, right? Now you feel like you're in a coaching session. Is your mom is one of the top brokers still today in the Hamptons, correct?
Yeah, no, she crushes it. I mean, she's amazing. I think she did like 300 million last year, so.
So that's what I'm saying for people like starting working for your mom and working through that. It's a challenge, right? Like, because people can view you either as your mom's son or something different. Like, how are you able really to work through that, right? Because like, it's not easy for people to do. And I know your journey hasn't been easy. So share a little bit about that and what your mindset was to grow from like working underneath somebody, learning from somebody, and then having the courage to go out on your own.
Yeah, I mean, well, when I came into business, like this is 2006, so there's no $1 million listing. My friends are all moving to New York City. I grew up in the Hamptons. They're like, what are you like, a part-time, second career, like middle-aged person? Like, what do you like? We're all going to New York. What are you doing? And I was like, I love the Hamptons. I want to stay out here. So I kind of walked in this office as a 22-year-old guy. My mom was in the luxury sphere. I was trying to relate to ultra high net worth individuals as a 22-year-old that was single with no kids and, you know, liked to surf at the time, so I was like, how do I, I'm wearing like a t-shirt. So I kind of had to grow up very quickly in the business. But, I think it was very hard at first, I think, to relate to clients, build rapport with clients. Everyone looked at me as like this kid, but those early 20s, like in those late 20s for me was, I think I grew a lot of a grit, and I think in this business, you really need like resilience and grit and grind. And like, you got to be able to take a punch, it's like, you just got to be able to take a punch and keep coming forward, um, like Rocky or something, like you just got to get up off the mat all the time. Chirag, I know you like that one, but it's like, we love David Goggins. It's like a rock, whatever he says, Rocky, round 14, Rocky, when everyone's telling him to stay down, you got to stay in the fight. You got to keep going. And that's like one thing that really did. And actually, when I met my wife, she was the one that really pulled me, like realize my self-worth. And I think that's big as a broker too, which I think it helps you with commissions or anything. Just know how valuable you are and what you're building, what you're doing, and have confidence in that. And she was the one that said, like, Matt, don't be afraid to, you can do this on your own if you want to. If you feel stuck, like whatever, like, working for my mom, and any family business is really tough. And I don't know who out there is in one, but it's a tough dynamic sometimes with family. It's just it's very charged sometimes. And I feel like I had lost my mom and I didn't have, like, I was just a business partner, and I feel like I had maximized my place there. And it was a very, it was an easy decision. It was hard to go up to the point to go, I'm going to go out on my own. But once I was there, it was easy to go do, and I took her to lunch and I ended up stepping out, and I actually enjoyed the freedom at first. I always had this creative side. I wanted to build my own thing. I just wanted to be on top of the pyramid and run my own show. And, it was a long journey. But, I think resilience and coming through those 20s and then growing and learning. And I tell young guys on my team, like, just be a sponge, or a young broker, like, just listen. And like, I grew up in this office that was like, they looked at me, they're like, who's this? They want to throw knives at me. Here comes a 22-year-old kid. He's like the top producer's son, like, they were tough, and they break, they give me crap and they push me, and like, but like, like, you just hang in there, but I would learn from them too. I would just listen and like listen to them make phone calls. I would listen to my mom. Like, my mom, I'll be like, Mom, I'm going to drive you on this appointment. Like, I'll take you, I'll drive. And I would just listen to her sell. Like, I would just sit in the front seat and drive. I was like a chauffeur, but I would see how she did it. I see how she set the appointments up. I see how she pivoted appointments, so I think a mentor for a young agent is like so huge. You just got to find a couple of them, and learn from them. And I'm still learning. I love to learn every day. I love shooting at guys like Chirag or anybody, or Gordon or Rory or any guys in this company. Like, I love learning.
You said some really important things, right? So let me just synthesize this for everybody. I challenge everyone here to think about, and we'll call this the Matt B challenge, right? Where are you getting knocked down and where can you keep going, right? Because if you didn't keep going, you'd never get here. And the second thing he shared is how, Matt, you know so many brokers in so many places, how undervalued is learning from other people and what that gives you over time, right? Because I find that even in coaching that people just want everything now and they skip the process and they think it's an event.
Yeah, you gotta put the work in, you gotta learn, you gotta fall first too. And like, you're gonna keep getting better at it too. I think it's overcoming fears in business, calling in actives for the first times. Like, that's not fun. But once you start doing it, you start to learn how to do it. Like, it's like, I enjoy getting pushed now, taking a client that you never worked with, or stepping into a price point that you've never done on a high end level, any of that kind of stuff, working with a high end celebrity client or something for the first time, all these things. And
so how do you approach that? Right? Like, so you've done a lot of celebrity clients. You have Kyrie Irving, you have some very well-known people, but like when you first got into that, what was that like? Right?
so
Like, what was your feeling and like, how did you approach it? And like, how do people do that?
it's it's funny. I know Chirag, because we kind of met through Ben Moss, and Ben sent me my first athlete. This is back in 2009. It was like Kerry Rhodes. I was like 25 years old or something. It was like Kerry Rhodes. He used to be the safety for the Jets, and that was like my first run dig. And I've completely like feel like I was just like a complete dork on that appointment and probably dropped the ball. But you learn from it. Like, I learned first. I feel like it didn't work out. I didn't sell him something. He got traded, whatever. But like, pushing myself in that experience. And then like the big break for me was like through another client of mine. I ended up getting referred Jason Kidd. And I think at that point I was a couple years older. And I think what I learned was like with like, especially with like I deal, like I would consider like ultra high net worth clients very similar to the way athletes do, like especially the big hedge fund guys, because they're very, like, somebody's always trying to sell both of them something, right? Some like these guys have a ton of money, so everyone's always trying to get it. Athletes do. Everyone's trying to like get their resources or get in with them because they're trying to take from something. And I think I learned about that, like, honesty and integrity. And just this broker early on gave me this saying, and it stuck with me for 20 years: is keep it simple and keep it honest, and just and that honesty and that integrity with these guys, and just a down to earth approach. And not trying to like get a photo with them, or making sure they don't end up on the post, like looking out for their interest, and it kind of goes into my broader approach. And I think that's why I kind of work with some of these, especially with these hedge fund guys too, when I've dealt with on the luxury level. And I think it's helped me relate to like the newer money buyers that are popular in the Hamptons, is that it's a little bit more of like a down to earth approach, or something where you're not bringing tension into a deal. You're kind of, you're lowering attention in the deal, but you're looking out for them and you're calming things down, and they really feel taken care of, and they really feel like you're on their side. And I think in sales, I think the most important thing is to understand empathy. And that's like one of my principles, is just always working from the client back to yourself, making sure they're comfortable, making sure they're all right. And I think athletes and ultra high net worth people on the luxury sphere, if you want to get into the luxury sphere, that's what it's all about. Telling someone not to buy something, the hardest thing to do. So, or not to
So
rent.
can we let's go through that process, right? Because we always like to get tactical here. Working from the client back to yourself, right? So if you're sharing this, Matt, there's about 170 plus people here, right? How would you tell them in like a 3 or 4 step process to think about their client and work backwards to themselves?
I think learn how to listen, say less, and I think learn how to ask questions. Like open-ended questions. How do you feel? How can I help? What can what can I do to help? How do you feel about that? Let them answer. Let them talk. Don't try to shove things. Like, you can't, especially with the head. Like, when I deal sometimes in Hamptons, the ultra luxury sphere, like you can't broker these guys. They're too smart. I'm speaking of humility. It's like, all right, you're waste. Like, you're just, I know real estate, but you just, like, it's open-ended questions and trying to listen and let them speak, and let them and take it easy and don't speak too fast, and just have that type of approach to it. And I think it really will. They'll talk, they'll open it up for you. Like, you need to listen from them, and you got to learn from them back. And I think rapport is a big thing too. If you're just trying to build, but if that's in like negotiation, if you're trying to build rapport, like when I meet someone for the first time, like I'm asking questions to help find something to maybe build some rapport with. I'm looking for that little nugget that they play golf or they have kids or whatever, or something that I can do to like grab it and build some rapport with, that we can kind of connect on a human level, you know? And I think connecting on a human level, not just a sales level all the time, is really, really essential. That you're not just, again, bring it to like friendship. And Chirag knows this, like always talking about like being more relationship based and transactional based.
I think that's really important what you said, right? You're not going to sell these people on stuff, and, that authenticity and working backwards. So do you suggest people write down their questions, right? Like if they're getting started?
Yeah, I think you got to, write them down, or definitely think about it. I think when you prepare, I think if you have a big call or something, I think it's always really good to think about it first, especially when you're negotiating.
We were talking about asking questions, right? And really being prepared to start with the client in mind, right? So I think going through this process for people of connecting, the next part is I want to talk about marketing, right? Because let's see, I have it right here, actually, your listing portfolio book,
Nice.
right? Like, guys, look how sleek this is, right? Like, if you open this is Matt's own book. When he handed this to me, I'm like, what the hell is this, right? And I'm like, first of all, I'm like, did the Hamptons make this? Did Matt make this? And then I realized, oh my God, Compass made this, right? So this concept are things that really set you apart. You're constantly innovative in the marketing space. So let's talk and spend some time about innovation and really how you approach that. And let's give and inspire other people to start innovating, right? Because I always said real estate's a commoditized business that's more of the same.
No, for sure. I mean, I love marketing to death. Sometimes I can get lost in it. I think, it was one of the main things that drew me to Compass right away. Actually, one of the first guys when they were recruiting me, I met with was Matt Spengler, who I know you had on, and Matt's amazing. What I loved about Compass was not like, all right, our brand is going to make you so great. They're really interested in me. They're interested in like, all right, let's help you build your brand. Let's help you build that. And I think you can only answer that as a broker, like who you are, what you're about, what's your brand, and what you see. I mean, we talk a lot about around my team is like, we want to innovate and elevate. We always want to elevate the marketing up a notch, take it up a notch. And, I compare it to like, if you're ever going to buy a luxury car, like go buy a Range Rover or Ferrari or whatever it is, I guarantee that brochure, that whole process, that whole presence of that marketing is going to be pretty stellar, So it's definitely, dealing in the luxury space is a big thing for me, how things are presented, and what you create. And I think Compass, like you guys all, like, since we're all at Compass, like they have an in-house marketing agency. Like what I love about Compass is like, if I compare Compass to a Ferrari, right? Like how fast do you want to drive it, right? Like you can go to them with like so many cool ideas and they'll work with you on it. And some of them may work, some of them may not, but you could go to them and say, hey, I have an idea, right? This is what I have, right? And, we're the listing portfolio book that Chirag, this is a new one too. I got to send it to you. We just actually dropped a new one. And we had an event, a big event. And we're like, what are we going to give these people? Like, why don't we make a book of like all of our listings together? And that was like in 2018, they helped put together, and then every rendition of it, it's become like almost like our little, it's like half pitch, half about us, half what we offer. I send them the top people in my network with a nice handwritten note, and it's a great tool. So, I think from video, we do a ton of video too, like that's like on a more innovative, digital landscape, but it's like, you have an opportunity at this company to really have some amazing resources to talk to them. And that's Chirag, kind of where we first started off, right? It's like, where people are like, they just want to get into coaching and they just want, all right, like you're going to like, put some pixie dust on them and they're just going to like within one call, like do 2 billion, a couple, like do 400 million a year, right? Like it's not how it works. Like it's a process. It's like anything, and I think I kind of learned that from athletics, but it's same with marketing. Like I joke with the marketing team because they're like, oh, we love Matt's marketing, but they don't like, they just sit there in the meeting. They don't have any say, right? Like you really got to think about it. It's all about thinking about before you get on calls. I think for marketing, you got to think about how you want to market, what you want to do. You got to put the work in. You got to find time in your day and block out some time to get creative and learn when you're the most creative. Sometimes, like I know 1:00 on a Wednesday, I'm not going to be creative. I'm going to have like 15 sales calls and there's going to be a burning building somewhere with a client and I'm going to have to like figure this out, but I'm not going to be able to get into that space. So I think finding your time. Is it a Sunday morning with a cup of coffee? Is it, whatever it is where you go down to the beach, whatever it is, go down to the beach, whatever, find somewhere where you can then get that, like Chirag and I flow, right? That word flow, I love it. But getting that flow where you're going to like that day, Chirag and I in our office, we're just pointing arrows around and dry erase boarding something, but just getting that creative space where you can,
Let's talk about in terms of creativity, right? There's a fundamental flaw I see in this whole industry. It's called real estate math. And if you guys haven't spent time with me, I'll tell you what this is now. It's like I send 1,000 postcards, I get 3 appointments, I get 1 listing, everything adds up, right? Like someone's like, okay, this is an expensive production. This is not cheap. The first question that people ask, and this is like the barrier to entry, I feel, well, how much business am I going to get out of that? Is that really even the way that you approach this?
No, I mean, it really isn't, maybe that makes me a good marketer because I don't really think like that, which also, that's why I need guys like you around me and some of your team and the amazing executive assistant we just hired to kind of, I say play defense and think about those other things. But, I think of it as just an amazing thing as the brand as a whole, like, I think it's just thinking about what your brand is, what defines your brand. It's just something that defines your brand. And, it's some of the stuff's more long term. I think you're going to have your long term initiatives and I think your short term initiatives are like you said, what's that's going to make me. I think, where you're going to make the cheddar is you picking up that, finding that sales block every day for 3 hours and locking yourself in a room and calling everybody in your damn network and pushing deals and making sure deals get done and pushing that. But I think the marketing stuff's going to be more that longer term strategy where you're building relationships on a good level. But for me, when I send one of these out with a handwritten note, like I'm putting another like quarter in the piggy bank for a relationship with someone where they're getting a nice package with me, this book, and it says, from a nice note from me. But it's also, I tried to make it less about, like, I think brokers get caught in just property marketing too. Like they get caught in just, and rankings and numbers, which I definitely use, but it's not like the whole basis of what I do, right? Like I want to tell people I'm proud of what I'm building, I'm proud of the brand that I have. I want to tell people about it, and I want to explain to them about that, and I think, it's like you having pride over your business and what you're trying to create, because you want to share that. And I think you want to be excited to share that. And if you're not excited to share that, I think that's something you should look at.
So for everyone sitting here, right? Long-term approach, love what you do, love your brand, be excited to share it. People pick up on that enthusiasm. Now let's go to all the people. When you talk about the pixie dust thing, right? You could have worked with any coach in the entire world. And I told you when we were working together, if you want to work with me after a couple long conversations, I'd want to change based on what you told me, every single thing in your business that worked really well. How'd you feel when I said that?
I think we were texting the other day, Chirag. I think change is uncomfortable, like I think a good coach is going to make you dance a little bit, right? They're going to make you move, like get up off your seat and be like, oh, okay, whoa, like pump the brakes. But I think that's like, I had hired another coach for a couple of years, Chirag, and it was like, I was observing you, and, what I loved about you was actually that you wanted to do that. Like you wanted to get in the weeds with me. Like you you wanted to get punched in the face too, right? You wanted to feel the pain. Like you wanted to get in the weeds and get down and dirty in it. And like I had a good coach before, and he's great, but like he's more of a mindfulness coach, and he worked me through some things in my head. But I was like, all right, that's great. Like I love that, and like everyone needs a good therapist, but like I need someone to get in here and like a mechanic, like, and I think that's like you, and that's what's so powerful about you is that I think you understand the pain points of agents. You have such a knowledge of it, and you're able to bring order to it, and see it. And when Chirag and I first started working, I was so frustrated at the time. I told him, I was like, dude, everyone and everything's on the table. Like I'm like, I just put my hands up. I was like, let's go, come on, and get in here. And it's been an amazing, just a month and a half now, Chirag. I don't know, something like that. But we've like completely pivoted my whole model. We cut a little fat on the team, and we pivoted some things, and it's been amazing. And we're really, I feel like, just getting started. But
Is it all right if we share how much? So what I want,
Yeah,
why I want to share this,
course.
I'll ask your permission first.
Of course.
Is people look at someone very successful like you, and people immediately think like, I don't want to change, like things are going well, right? You're coming off having like an amazing quarter that was like almost your same thing. We spent a day and a half together. Can we talk about how within a day and a half, how many things we changed?
Yeah. Chirag came all the way out here, and I cut this kind of cool special deal with him to do this. And, we just locked ourselves in the basement of the Southampton Compass office, and just, went to work and looked at every little aspect of it. And I think you need to treat, like the thing about this is that what's so challenging is that like sales agents run these, as an agent you get successful and you start doing more business, and I think as agents, like, we really need help scaling because we just don't know how to do that. And I think I was going off of change because felt so stressed and I was exhausted, and I just didn't feel like in my gut that the team was getting leverage right. I wasn't leveraging things right, and it just felt, it's like you got to go off your gut, and things like it felt like, all right, like numbers are numbers, and you can have great numbers, but if you feel like this is not just fully functioning the way it is, and I feel like even if it was functioning reasonably well, like I probably still would have hired Chirag because I want to make it better. It's like always just trying to get better and not improve. Like success is a moving target. It really is. Like it's just, and I'm not saying that you should forever just get on the treadmill, but I think that, it's always just trying to improve things. Like I said, innovate and elevate it. And, what I love about Chirag is like me and him, like we'll go toe to toe, and I like that he stands up to me and will be like, no, because, he's not just a yes guy. Like he'll tell you and see it. And we kind of then find that middle ground of what we say. Like I remember when you were out here, I kept circling back. I was like, well, what about this? You're like, Matt, no. I'm like, 5 minutes later, I'm like, well, what about this? You're like, no, and I was like, okay, I get it now,
So Matt, in terms of guys for change, right? And I know some people drop off at the 30-minute mark, and we're going to get into Q&A because I know, Matt, people have a lot of questions for you. Matt transitioned his assistant to a sales assistant. We hired a new executive assistant. Matt's marketing manager now has a new role. They have a new meeting structure, right, that we've implemented, as well as we made a couple transitions on the team, and now the culture is 100% aligned, correct?
Yeah, we got these two people that they're not bad people. I just think it wasn't really fitting. And I think like moving forward, I think if like we had a launch off meeting with the new team, like I feel like I was telling my wife if they were there, it would have been a different meeting, just their dynamic. And I think thinking about that, hiring not, thinking about your culture and the personalities of who you're bringing in, and looking for the strengths in your people. Like the guy that was basically my assistant prior was amazing, but I started to really, and I've learned this trying to run a team for a couple of years, is like I started trying to find his strengths, and I'm like, all right, he's a lot like me, which is what I don't need for an executive assistant. He has very much sales tendencies. He's very relationship based. He's not a system thinker. He's more a relationship person. So I'm like, Chirag and I started talking about that. We're like, all right, let's move him to just show houses for me, do a lot of the open houses, open that up for me so I can get into and do some of that middle work. I was telling Chirag, I like to open deals. I like to build that first relationship, and I like to close deals. I hate the middle part. Hate it. don't like it anymore. And I'm exhausted because I'm like, been doing this since I was 22. And I was like, Chirag, I don't got it in me anymore to be out there showing houses to like 15 houses to these guys on
Yeah, but you're home on the weekends, aren't you, for the most of the time with
Yeah,
your
I'm
wife
home on the
and kids?
weekends for the most part now. I got 3 kids under 5 and my wife. And I mean, that was a big part of my change too, is that I listen, you know, one of the major things, I'm sure I told you this, last August, I got into a really big, despite having a great year, I got into a cash flow pinch in August of last year. And I was like, what is going on? I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I'm not selling as much as I am. I'm in the markets, the best markets ever been. I got off to a really slow start in the COVID market, not up to my standard. And I made a promise to my wife and myself that like I would never be there again. And I was going to spend more time with my family. I was going to bring more stability to my family. We're going to bring some more money home, and we're going to bring like I'm going to build this thing like a real business, and it's going to be for real. And it kind of led me a couple months later to Chirag, you know. So
Look, you know, the one thing about this business that you could see from Matt is it's fluid, you know, and that we all just have to keep evolving. And, you know, I put that purposely that you're home with like your wife and kids, right? I remember your wife saying this to me very clearly. I remember us all sitting at dinner and her being like, look, there's no way my kids are not going to have their father around all the time and Matt work this much and it not come home. And that goes down to profitability and like really knowing your business, right? And I challenge everyone today, like you can have more, right? Like if you think about really like, why'd you get into this? Matt, you ever get into this business, work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, be buried in your cell phone and not pay attention and lift your head up to all the things that are really important to you?
yeah, all the time. I always joke, I'm like one bad deal away from like going to start like Captain Ron, go start like a sailing charter place in Costa Rica. Like I'm surf camp in Central America. I'm out of here. Like forget this. You know, it's a grind. And you know, being raised by a broker gave me perspective, right? Like, and I had 2 working parents. Like my house changed when my mom went to work, and I don't judge her for anything. She's just go trying to get that money and do her thing. And like even still, she still works her butt off. I'll talk to her. She's showing rentals on a Sunday, and I'm like, all right, you know, listen, she's still doing a ton of money, but you know, doing a ton of volume. But it's like, you know, I didn't want that life. I don't want that life for my kids. And I feel like there's a better way. Like I was shown a house a couple weeks ago, biggest broker at Sotheby's. He's, you know, this guy, he's always up there, and he's the top broker at Sotheby's. I think in all of Sotheby's. He's based in Southampton. You know, this guy's like an old legend. We're showing this property, second showing, and he's getting out of the car, and he's like lumber around. He's like 70 years old, and I'm like, you know, his name's Harold. I'm like, Harold, like, what are you doing here, man? Like, you know, like you've been doing this for so long, and like some of the older school, I don't think they like. I feel like we need to evolve. Like I love about guys like Chirag, like in Compass too, trying to evolve this industry where there can be structure to it, right? Like there can be more order to it, and I don't feel like I'm wrong. You know, most brokers be like, well, I need to be the guy, and my clients want to deal with me, and like, yeah, of course you're going to deal with them, but it's finding out those really get into those systematics of how you can get the best of everything on it, you know, and still grow your business and have that stability. And that's been something I've been trying to achieve too, to actually have some more stability. Because like when I was growing up, like being raised by a broker, I was always the last kid to get picked up from school. Like I was always the last kid to get picked up from school. There was no cell phones at the time, so I couldn't call my mom. Like, and I run out of quarters, you know, on the payphone, and I walked home like a bunch of times. No one's coming to pick me up. My dad was a builder. Like he'd pick me up, he'd have to go check 5 job sites on the way home. And I was like, all right, like, you know, it was just kind of chaotic. And I didn't want that for my kids. And, you know, my wife and I had it at the same time. So anyway, that's.
We have some questions. We put up, people have been DMing us and asking about coaching and group coaching. And I'll tell you guys, quick plug. We do have an in-person event coming. Matt will be on a panel there, and it's a full day event. There'll be a lot of networking. So we only have limited in-person spaces. So obviously we want to give people in our community access to the information first. So just click the survey. If you're interested, someone from our team will reach out to you. And then other than that, we'll continue with the Q&A. Matt, what's your best marketing tool?
A video right now, and the listing portfolio book. It would be a 2-part, you know, this book, and then, you know, I got a guy on my team, and if anyone, I think bringing stuff in-house is really important. Like if any of you guys are growing a team and have some sales stuff covered, I think someone to handle marketing is so huge. And he's been such an asset for us. I have this like 25-year-old guy who's fantastic, and he's a videographer, and he does all my marketing, email blasts, and everything. But that's a huge tool for us is doing video. And like I feel like it's an open space, like digital. I feel like it's still so raw, you know, and it's like social media, all that. I think, you know, the video aspect of it is very raw right now. I think it's a great
What
opportunity.
about people, including you, that don't like being on camera? What do you say to them?
Good question. You know, I mean, even if it's like highlight, I mean, I always like tell Zach, like, Chirag and I call him Z Money, but we call, you know, Z Money. We like to make a movie trailer, you know, like I think that's short marketing, you know. I think the days of like the MTV Crib like videos are kind of going out a little bit with the Ferraris and the dude with the aviators on, and like some of these brokers that do that stuff. Like, I feel like they want to know who you are. And I think, like, don't just be quick to judge yourself that you may not like it, though. You know, find a way that makes you comfortable, even if it's a voiceover. I'm sure you got something nice to say. If you're in sales and you can say you don't like video, I think at least people like how you talk, and because you have to have that high influential, I think, ability to, on a verbal level, to be pretty good at this business. So, you know, I think try to get creative to do it, but you know, even if it's a voiceover or something, if you don't want to be on camera, like, it's helpful, you know. But I think shorter videos, those reels, those 30-second stuff is people don't have attention span for the long stuff.
Everyone, this is like a $1 million question. How do people, how do you get into the sports entertainment world if you want to get started? And is it worth every agent to even look into that avenue?
Depends on where you are, right? Like I'm good friends with guys like Ben Moss, or, you know, Ali Mayer Lucas down in Florida. Like that's such a large part of their business. Like for me, like, it's a small part of my business, but it's fun because I always grew up in sports, right? And in that sphere, right? Some areas, like, you get a lot of relocation, you get guys coming down there all the time. You know, some areas,
I'm fine, yes, okay.
some areas you don't get it as much, you know. Some areas, you know, you just don't, it's not a lot of, you know, ROI, as they say, right, on it. Like, you know, for me, I rent these guys a couple homes, but I can go sell some guy a house for $4 million that knows it's not a whoever, and it's not gonna, you know, do that. But I think, I'm telling you, if you want to get into any space, one, be confident in it, don't be fearful of it, really think about it before you do it, and then take massive action to do it. And I think the massive action is, you got to find influencers. And what I mean by that is like real estate influencers, like gatekeepers. So in the sports world, it's all gatekeepers. In the ultra high net worth world, it's very much like that too. Family office heads, agents, brokers. I love broker-to-broker relationship. I think it's the most powerful relationship. As I was talking to a guy on my team like that yesterday, I was like, listen, like, call 10 brokers a day, because most of the time people are going to go to a lot of times they go to their real estate broker. And that's how I built a lot of my business on broker-to-broker relationships and just referrals in general. But I always told people, I was like, just give me the opportunity, open the door, and I'll close it. Like, I'll go through there and I'll get the deal done. Like, just get me the opportunity. And that's what you want. You want opportunities. Like, if you're trying to get into a space, luxury or sports entertainment, you want to find the opportunities, and it's going to be a referral opportunity. And when you get that opportunity, like, no pun intended, you got to hit it out of the park, right? Like, I got referred Jason Kidd. I worked my butt off. I put blinders on. I didn't think anything else. I sold him a house for $5 million. And he had such a great experience. A year and a half later, when he got traded to the Milwaukee, he called me to sell it. And you know what? And we went to go, and he had a great experience then too. And I really put the time in and the effort in and focused on the relationship. And when he got traded when he went to the Lakers to be assistant coach, I referred him to a Compass agent in LA, right? So, like, it's learning how to, when you get those top clients in the space that you're going to go, that you really lean into it, and you just put the blinders on and don't get distracted. Because I think as an agent, time is our most valuable asset. And I think we get distracted by so many things, and it only gets harder. It's like playing video games as a kid. You go up, and as you do more sales, you get distracted more and more. And it's like trying to figure out, and that's why we need guys like Chirag to help us. But anyway,
Thank you. What would you tell your younger self to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of building your real estate business? Start all over again.
Yeah, I would tell my younger self to have more self-confidence in myself, value myself a little bit more. Um, don't let. I think a big change in my life too was the moment I really stopped valuing the way other people thought about me. Um, I was like so sensitive to that in my early part of my career, like how people perceived me. Um, and I learned to use it not to hurt me, but what used to hurt me, but then I started to learn how to use it as fuel, and that's when I think my whole life changed.
That's deep, dude. I like that. So I'll leave with one last question because I'm not going to be the reason that Courtney sends me a message that you're late to your daughter's graduation. I'll get you out right on 10:15 on the dot. What tactics did you use to hit it out of the park, right? So like I know for agents and like when we have our event, right? Like one of the things I know that our team has talked about is like you say hit it out of the park. I want to synthesize all that, make sure that after the event, like they get all those tactics, right? Because you know this, you go to real estate conference, people say all this stuff, and then they're sitting there watching like, okay, great, how do I do this, right? So we want to go to high level to tactical. What tactics can Peggy and the rest of the agents use like to hit it out of the park? Last question.
Well, I think this business is all about follow up, and then following back up, and then staying following up on people in your own way. And I think, for me, I've always like, not only do I like to learn, but I always like to try to like get better systems, even for myself, of like, how do I get better at follow up, and like using the CRM. I used to work off spreadsheets. I still love spreadsheets. But like tracking everything, writing everything down. Like my notes app and my Google Keep Notes app is like labeled and like completely crazy, right? So it's like now I do it in the CRM. I write everything down in CRM. Like I put everything down in there because you can't remember it all, but you just got to stay. Um, that's the main thing is just like you go to that event, go put all those contacts, if you need to use the CRM, let's say you're just using your spreadsheet person, put that all in a spreadsheet, hit those people back, circulate back home. But then you got to, like, I compare like agents, like you got to find the chum in the water. You got to find like, they're like sharks, like good brokers, like they find that, like they're following up and then they see that red in the water and they go in there and go for that deal and they get that deal done, right? Like it's like looking for the deal and then learning to cut off stuff that's not going to work, but trying to keep on that. And from a tactical perspective, that's, I think, just keep following up with those contacts, but then try to learn, like try to separate out those top contacts, those evangelists of your business, those people that are just pumping, that love you, that are like giving you referrals, that are always like, take care of them. Send them the handwritten note with the book, send them a gift, whatever, but stay on it. And, stay top of mind on the most important people. That would, I hope that makes sense. I don't know.
That makes a lot of sense, right? Document everything, use your CRM, don't work off a spreadsheet, continue to follow up, know the difference of who to invest relationships, right? You want to spend more time contacting the evangelists and the people that really help promote your business versus just trying to contact everyone, right? So it's be purposeful, don't care about what people think, put more into what you do. As Matt would say, get used to getting punched in the face because it's what you tell me every day. And look, like find a coach, a partner, people you can work with that you can like flow with, right? Like I think like it's funny that Matt and I think legitimately like text each other every day. And like we're talking about music and David Goggins and all kinds of different things. But look, like, the thing that inspires me about Matt is it's a guy that's a father, an entrepreneur, a business person that is on just a never ending conquest to have more and to bring it around to everyone around him. Right. So it's like, there's him, there's Daniel Kim, who's his new executive assistant, who we call the legend. And there's Jake and there's Zach and there's Dominic. And, there's a whole team of people that help make this all possible. Right. Someone wrote Stay Hard. Exactly. So Matt, thank you for sharing all this. If you guys have a referral for the Hamptons, make sure you reach out to Matt. And we appreciate everyone being here. I always said that like if there's one thing that's going to sink me, it's Zoom glitches in life. So thank you guys for your patience today. And Matt, you're 2 minutes late, man. Get out the door and go
All
see
right,
your
thanks,
postgraduate
guys.
school. So,
I appreciate it.
see you guys later.
Bye-bye.